start. There you go.
All right, okay. Hi, this is Wayne Bergeron, and you're listening to Triple Threat.
Love. And welcome to Triple Threat. We are your all-talk Beatles, The Who, and Pink Floyd show, and I'm joined by the cast of crazies, and they join me because they have no option. Becca Christino.
Hello.
And Garrett Hicks.
What's up?
And this is probably going to be the third in our series, well, it is the third in our series, of the albums that we're going to be referring to from time to time, and so people don't shake their heads and go, what the heck is this? But we really think you should know what the heck this is. We are talking about an album that was celebrating 40 years, came out in March of '73 by Pink Floyd. It's a little known record that you may have heard of in your indie shop called Dark Side of the Moon. And so we're going to be talking about this album, you know, how we feel about it, how we got into it, kind of how it speaks to us, especially me, because I've been listening to it for almost the past 2 weeks now to prepare for this show, and now it's in my DNA now. But I know it's probably been in you guys' DNA for much, much longer. But I think before we, really get into this album, why don't we just kind of, see how everyone's doing? Garrett, how are you doing tonight?
Actually, I'm doing pretty darn good.
Well, I'm glad, because that makes me glad. And Becca, how about you?
Oh no.
Oh no.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah. And I'm mad. I've always been mad. And for those of you who haven't caught the references, just fast forward about maybe 10 minutes into the show and you'll get everything. So we're going to be talking about Dark Side of the Moon, the album, strictly the album. We will mention, a couple of things that have come out about it. But I think probably the best place really to start with this album is really to kind of, how, because we weren't there for it, how we kind of got into this album. Does anybody want to start? I could start.
Go for it.
Well, I may have mentioned this before on one of our previous episodes, is that this album was one of the first few albums that I actually got from my dad on a physical CD. He had burnt a copy of it, and I remember playing it in my room when I was about maybe 9 or 10. I kind of liked it. I'll stress this. Because I didn't exactly get it. I thought the sound effects were kind of cool, and some of them, especially on Great Gig, just scared me, and I had to skip it every time. And I'm not kidding. And over time, I remember watching it with Wizard of Oz, trying to think it would be so cool. And then I really didn't pick it up until about 3 years later when, I hate to, give a shameless plug-in, but when I met Garrett and he introduced me to the Floyd and how to really become a fan. So that's when I picked it up, and it's pretty much been in my, DNA for those past few years. So for that, I'm grateful. Garrett, how did you get into this album?
Well, my first Pink Floyd album was The Wall that my brother got for his birthday when I was a sophomore in high school. And after that, when I started to realize, man, these guys are really good. I need to listen to more of what they do. I remember the little medley that would sometimes play on the radio that was called The Dark Side of the Moon because it was Brain Damage and Eclipse played one after the other. So I hear, you grow up hearing about the Dark Side of the Moon, and it's before you even listen to it, it's got this grand mythos of it's the best-selling album of all time, and it's got the cover that's all dark and mysterious, and what does it mean, and everything around it is. And then you actually listen to it. I didn't know what to expect when I heard it, but I got it for $7 on iTunes, or that was a steal. And then when I started listening to it, I actually realized this is why it's amazing.
Great story. Becca, how about you?
Well, I first heard this album when I was first truly delving into music. I'd always grown up around music, growing up in a musical family, learning how to play instruments from a very early age. When I finally started to have my musical awakening, I was, of course, thrust into the world of classic rock. And one day I heard my parents bringing up this band called Pink Floyd, and I'm like, oh, I've heard of this before. This Pink dude must be pretty cool if people still haven't checked out him for like 30 years. I made my little 12-year-old self to the computer and punched up to Google and found out that this Dark Side of the Moon thing was supposed to be something important. So as most musically uneducated, well, not musically uneducated per se, but people who go for access rather than just pure love of all things music before truly growing into an understanding of a love of music, I just hopped on iTunes and just kind of downloaded it. And then before I even put the headphones in my ears, I went to bed, woke up the next day, and picked it up on CD at a garage sale as well. Because I don't know, it was $1. Why not? So I sat down and I listened to it. And the very first thing I remember absolutely sticking about it was the clocks at the beginning of time scaring the ever-loving crap out of me. Sitting there, I'm hard of hearing, so I was straining to hear the beginning of the next song. So there's just this very quiet ticking of the clocks. I'm like, okay.
You're like, where's the song?
This thing on, hello, cranking up the volume, and then. But I was absolutely captivated by everything about this album, and it truly helped me solidify what I like about music and what a significance it is in my life, and it's just a beautiful, wonderful album that really not only got me into the Floyd, but got me into music.
Yeah, it's really rare that an album touches so many people like The Dark Side of the Moon has. It really, not only has it revolutionized music since 1973, it revolutionized the way that we relate to music.
Well, yeah, I agree, and that brings to mind. There's a really great article in. There's a book by Stuart Shea called "Pink Floyd FAQ," and in there's an essay called "Matter of Fact, It's All Dark," and it explains how the Dark Side of the Moon can be appreciated from so many different angles and perspectives. And the essay, I'm not going to give it away, but the essay kind of goes track by track, kind of how certain ideas and some of the songs can relate to some people, and how some people relate to it in a different way. And it's kind of like, it's almost a rant on saying these are like the 50 reasons why Dark Side of the Moon is really important, not just like you said to Pink Floyd's career, but to anybody who is a fan of music. I mean, I think it's a safe thing to say that anybody's music collection, is not complete or unless they have Dark Side of the Moon in it.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
Because I think, Becca, you had made this mention to me. We were talking about this, and I think you said something like, it's so universal that every second of any day somebody is playing a song from this album.
I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. Yeah, if you just like at any given point during the day, it's not only is it universal, but it's sold so many copies all around the world that at any moment someone could be pressing play for the first time right now, or just dropping the needle on the record since Finals had a revival, just right at this instant, and delving into the universe of Pink Floyd for the very first time.
Exactly.
Yeah, with all the albums it sold, it's actually kind of statistically possible. It's statistically possible that it would happen, yeah.
Right. Well, because this album stayed on the charts for 741 straight weeks, which means it was on the charts from 1973 to 1988. And it's since re-entered due to constant reissues and popular interest in it. But 741 weeks, that's like something, like the Beatles made 50 years ago, and we're still listening to it now.
Unbelievable.
It's incredible. So
natural because it's just such a popular, well-known thing now. But when you take a step back and look at it, there's so many other bands that were around during the 60s and 70s. How come we, pardon my French, what makes us so intrigued by this Pink Floyd group? There's several other bands from that era we don't give a rat's ass about right now, but these people just revolutionized music.
Absolutely.
And especially the band itself, they weren't particularly impressed with what they were doing when making the album. Yeah. They've gone down in interviews saying, well, this is just our next project. Hopefully it'll stick with something.
It may be.
They were just starting to get some airtime with Echoes in America.
America would play Echoes?
Yeah, very occasionally.
Okay, because I was about to say, I think in the 70s, that's really when FM radio was really becoming big, and they were starting to get into album cuts and, extended versions of, songs that may have been edited down as singles. I mean, we had mentioned this before about how, there probably are, underground stations that maybe do play this entire album because it's really hard to pick one song. And not just because every song runs into each other, but sometimes it's part of a suite. You can't just take out this 5-minute chunk that just sounds good.
Right.
You have to play it through. It's like if you're at a hotel and you turn on the TV and there's a really good movie on, you have to keep watching it from that point. You really can't turn it off after that. And what you just said, Garrett, about how they weren't too enthusiastic about recording it, there's a great documentary, no doubt we've all seen it, of classic albums, the making of The Dark Side of the Moon. You guys have seen it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And there's a segment in there where, I think it's at the very beginning, where David Gilmour says it wasn't until he sat down and listened to the whole thing when they were, I guess, completing it or, finishing up the masters, that he thought to himself, my God, we've really done something fantastic here.
Yeah.
And I think he also said in that same movie that he said he wishes that he could just sit down and listen to Dark Side of the Moon start to finish as if he had never heard of it before. And he said something like, I'll never have that experience. And I feel bad for the guy a little bit.
Well, yeah.
Because, he's played it
Alan did very well off musician. But it's true. That's how amazing this album is.
Right. So just kind of before we get into this album, kind of tackling it, kind of a few basic things. Started recording in June of 1972 at Abbey Road Studios. And if you, especially you can see it if you watch the Live at Pompeii film that was made, you do see a bunch of shots of the band recording this album. You see Gilmour working on guitar solos. You see Roger experimenting with synthesizers. You see the band eating in the studio. You see all kinds of stuff. But
I want an apple pie with no crust, please.
yeah, great segment, people. Go watch that.
They got the ass now, Nick. What you want to do about it?
The oysters are good around there this year.
Well, the oyster's all right.
It's so funny that we watch that because we think that, this album crystallized the band and they made them immortal. But you watch that footage and they're just everyday guys in the studio.
Oh yeah, this is before they exploded. They're totally normal.
And before Roger went to his head big time. I'm just kidding.
Well, he does come off as pretty snobby in some parts of that movie.
Right, but some parts. I was thinking the same thing. But my question is, and this is something I really wish I could get a response to. Why did they film themselves in the studio? Did they know? Because you said, did they secretly know they were going to be making a masterpiece album?
No, it was going to be part of the Pompeii movie, but they actually cut it out for the original release.
Okay, so you're saying that
The
even
director's cut comes along and is fantastic.
so you're saying that if they were working on a different album, they would have just recorded themselves working on that.
Yeah.
Probably, but it just so happens this has to be great, and the fact that we have the footage of them working on it is it's incredible.
Well, it's sort of incredible.
Well, it is sort of because you do hear things like you hear that Gilmour added a few more guitar licks to Brain Damage because you do see him working on it, but those were taken out.
The thing about that is though that everything you see as being overdubbed, like those solos and stuff, that was all staged for the movie.
Was it really?
The album was already completed when they recorded those.
My heart just kind of
completely ruined every sort of illusion I had.
my heart's kind of broken now.
I'm sad now.
Okay, well, before we all hit rock bottom, let's get on with reviewing this album.
Let's do. And I think just one more thing before we get on.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, Tom, shut up. We're taking the show over and you're leaving.
All right, so let's get into when you put the CD in or you put it on your iPod and you press play. The opening title, Speak to Me. And I don't really have much to say about it because it's more of a soundscape than it is a song or even an instrumental. But I think the idea that the album should start this way with a little bit of the sound effects that come later in the album, it's like an overture of some kind.
It gives you the first thought, the first occurrence of the question that you're going to be asking yourself throughout the entire rest of the album. What the hell is this?
Yep.
Except
And
each time you ask yourself this, it'll be with more amazement each time. It's like, oh, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? What sort of magic is this? You know?
yeah.
It's
and,
a
then,
very,
and then at the end is, what the hell was that?
especially the way it ends with Claire Troy doing the scream, which I relate to Becca, scared the crap out of me. First time I heard that.
Oh, you meant Speak to Me. I was referring to the whole album. But yeah, Speak to Me. It's a great track. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opener, and interestingly is credited to Nick Mason, even though, as we said, there really isn't much instrumentation to it.
Well, yeah, it's credited to him because, like you said, it's a soundscape, but the soundscape is his idea.
See, I always thought that was, I swear I read somewhere that was Roger's idea, and he just gave the credit to Nick, because Nick wasn't getting much credit at all.
No, it was Nick's idea to begin it with a soundscape, but Roger was the one who actually sequenced the sound effects.
Okay, so that's probably what I read. But Speak to Me goes smack into what is now the second track. I mean, it's been separated on CD now into the first real song, Breathe, and really, really almost a heartwarming first song on this album. Just from
I don't know about heartwarming as much as chill as hell.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. You know, beautiful strum, beautiful, great pedal steel, and
Instantly soothing.
yeah, and
oh yeah,
yeah.
Like, all
Right. So, what do you guys think of the song in general?
First off, I love the vocals because they're breathy and airy. But
right. Breathing in.
yes, really, that's what it is. And
So it's just, hey, breathe in the air.
yeah, and it just the way you hear the word breathe come out the first time, it's almost sighed out.
It's interesting. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go, Tom.
I was gonna say, you know, those opening lyrics. It's so funny that it's funny now because Roger has knocked those lyrics so many times, saying that he thought they were just dumb words. Breathe in the air. Don't be afraid to care.
It sounds really dumb, but sometimes people just forget them. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to, sit down and breathe, especially in the rushed nature of today's world.
Right, and it's
It's a constant, run, rabbit, run, dig that hole, forget the sun. It's that. That's what life has. That's what modern life has become.
especially with this album, that a lot of it is very up tempo and feels rushed, and so it's kind of interesting that he puts this at the beginning and just saying before we get into all this, just breathe.
It's the basic of life. Do not forget to breathe. Don't be afraid to care.
Which
Remember, basic 10 is just relax. Things are gonna seem, evil and whatever, because that's how the world is. Just breathe. Don't be afraid to care.
And you'll get through it.
Work and work. That's how the world is. It sucks, but whatever. Just calm down. And as a person who has recently had to start coping with anxiety attacks, this holds true. It's just like it's a sigh of relief. This song it just opens up the album. Just
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we should mention, I feel like we should have said this before. The Dark Side of the Moon is a concept album dealing with madness, insanity, what makes people go insane. That sort of subject, dwelling on it, doesn't really offer any solutions. As much as just simply analyzing it. So Speak to Me introduces that with the audio clips, like I've always been mad, or I've been mad for f***ing years. And like you said, Breathe is saying, well, here's a possible solution. You just got to calm down and take it.
Right. Yeah, right. I like those. I like the idea of it, and I think that's probably why it's actually one of the first songs that got me to be a Pink Floyd fan. Just because this is one of the first songs I heard by them, and I was thinking, these guys are pretty, easy and complex. I can live with this. And it was just a beautiful sound to it. And, as a little kid, hearing the lyrics "Run, Rabbit, Run," nobody puts rabbits in their songs anymore. So that was kind of cool in there. Also, on a geek note, the words "breathe, breathe in the air" are also the first words on the soundtrack to The Body that Roger Waters worked on. Those are
Oh,
the first words on that album. So it'd be interesting to know if Roger was, thinking ahead, because that album was done in 1970, I believe.
yeah, that's right.
And I think the song that really makes it for me, and I know Becca, we've had discussions about this, is Rick Wright's not just the beautiful organ part he put into it, but some of the chords he put into the song are just unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely. This is actually discussed in that Making of the Dark Side of the Moon DVD.
That's right.
It says, I could have easily just done this normal progression that everybody does, but um, an excellent drinking game to play with the Making of Dark Side of the Moon DVD is take a shot every time Richard Wright says, essentially, yeah, I pretty much took this from Miles Davis's Kind of Blue.
Is that true? I didn't know that.
Chord that captivated him, which I feel that way about several chords on Dark Side, actually, and it's just, okay, I'm going to use this for things now.
Right.
Yeah.
This gorgeous jazz chord before returning back to the E on which progression starts.
Yeah.
I would agree.
It's just the entire sound of it, because it could have gone in a much more standard pop rock-esque way, but then you just get this wild jazz chord thrown in there, and you're like, oh, well, this sounds different.
Whoa, all the dissonance, man. It's exciting.
It is really exciting. I think that's one of the best things about this song is getting to that chord. And you already know that he nicked that from Miles Davis, but you realize he just used it so well, and it just makes the song, sounds fantastic already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Breathe ends, and we are on the run. Another soundscape. I mean, I wouldn't really. I know you guys are going to debate this. I know there's like a synthesizer, but I wouldn't call it much of a song either. This is to me another one of those soundscapes, but this one, because it's at full volume, it doesn't sneak up on you like Speak to Me. It really is, it's a real listening experience. When you listen on headphones, you're blown away.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I said how I feel about it. Garrett, how do you feel about On the Run as a whole?
My gosh. This is the worst song ever when you're driving.
Oh, God. Why do that? Someone who gets really panicky while driving, I would actually have a heart attack.
Oh, yeah. Because On the Run, again, with keeping the whole madness theme, it explores the fact that some people have a fear of traveling. And it doesn't matter if it's on the road or in the sky. Some people are just completely horrified by it, including Rick Wright, who this was the inspiration for this song because he was scared of flying, and you just assaulted in the song by the synthesizer, and the sort of hi-hat sound coming out of it as well. And then you hear the Doppler sounds effect from what sound like cars rushing past.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just,
Yeah. It is very menacing. I think they were trying to go for that vibe of, because Breathe kind of, was like, breathe and then you're on the run, the titles work well together.
This world of panic and just this frantic air.
Right.
yeah,
So when you're on the run, if you're not careful, something's going to happen. And the track even ends with the sound of, I've always heard it as like an airplane crashing down.
yeah.
Which
That's
was,
what it has.
yeah.
When it was played on stage, especially during the '94 Pulse tour, they would actually have a model airplane fly down from the back of the stadium or wherever they were and crash into the side of the stage, an explosion of flame. It's
Oh,
awesome.
Yep.
It's so awesome.
I want to be there. And I think that airplane crash noise is actually David Gilmour's guitar in Distortion. He was scraping the pig down, and then you get that ding, like you said, and
Yeah.
I actually really like, and you guys may think I'm a total nerd on this, but it's no problem.
It's accepted fact.
Exactly. Yeah, but the fact that you get obviously you get the sounds like the air hostess speaking the flight times, and you hear the sounds of footsteps and a guy panicking, and then you hear the plane crash, and then after that you still hear like the footsteps and the heavy breathing.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a little bit of like Inception, how like that really didn't really happen,
Yeah.
and how he's still on the run. Like you said, people who have a fear that they're always on the run, they always like need to be going somewhere.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was such a cool thing, and also the really cool thing, and I can't believe I didn't mention this, are all the talk bits in this song that go in and out
Yeah.
from
Here today, gone tomorrow.
and I think wasn't that their roadie who said that,
Yeah.
who goes by the name of Roger the Hat. And just on a geek side note, if you have the Immersion box set, which I know Becca you have, and I'm jealous about, if you go to the DVD, there is an Easter egg. For those who don't know the term Easter egg, it's a hidden, it's a hidden like bonus track essentially. If you go on the DVD, there's a hidden Easter egg, and you get the full Roger the Hat interview.
Oh, yes.
So you do hear the bits and pieces that he recorded all strung together without the sound effects under it. So you get to hear the full Roger the Hat interview and all the quotes that he says throughout the entire album.
Yeah. He was a kooky, really cool guy. Rest in peace, man.
Yeah. Also on the Immersion box set, you get the studio version and the live version back when the song was called The Travel Sequence. So those are fun listens to listen to.
Yeah, the original Travel Sequence was actually just a guitar and drums jam that sounded almost nothing like On the Run eventually sounded.
Right, but I think it's cool to hear like the evolution of the song. When we talk about this being a grandiose album, it's fun to hear like the bits and pieces and the fragments and the stuff that didn't kind of work. So
Yeah.
I love that, and that's all I have to say about On the Run. Really, I just think it's a great soundscape, and leading you into the next song, perfect segue right there, for Time. I guess, what do you guys think of it? I'll start with Becca this time.
Of time,
Yeah.
as mentioned before, those clocks scared the ever-loving crap out of me. But yeah, it's just the time. I'm going to have so much trouble articulating any thoughts about this album.
Well, here. I'll help.
Thank you. I'm sure I'll interject a lot.
Totally.
I just can't start.
Yeah, Time is probably one of my favorite songs on Dark Side, and it's one of my favorites even before the vocals really kick in, because it begins with the clocks, and the clocks are amazing and everything, and then right after that is the really dark section. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, very.
Where you just get these long sustained chords, and the toms run over the top, which by the way is amazing how they did the toms. They only had 3 rototoms in the studio when they were recording it, so they had to record a few notes, then stop the recording, detune the toms, record a few more notes, stop recording, and then tune the toms again and record more notes. So what you're hearing is actually multiple takes spliced together. So almost every tom hit you hear is from a different take.
I didn't know that actually. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing, and it's still played really well live.
I agree with I agree with. I hate to sound like repeating, but I pretty much agree with all of you. I love the darkness of like the beginning, and yes, the clock noises they did scare me too when you first hear them.
They scare you the first time you hear this every time.
Pretty much, yeah, because like you know what's coming, but it kind of goes on a little too long to the point where you're almost like, "Where's the song?" And then right when you say that, the clocks punch you in the face. That sound. Alan Parsons doing a great job. He recorded the clocks for a sound effect record. Yes, I do research people. For a sound effects record that was totally unrelated, and this is mind blowing. It had the sound of a cuckoo clock in it, but it was removed because it destroyed the ambience.
The ambience.
Well, can you hear a cuckoo clock in that maddening, 12 seconds that the clocks go on for, and then the guitar comes in? You can't take it seriously.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I just think that's nuts that they would even consider that.
Yeah.
In there.
But also, just this song has so many cool little innovations in it too. Like, The TikTok you hear over the dark section is made by Roger Waters plucking muted strings on his bass. I'm like, that's so cool.
I actually didn't know that either, so I'm learning a lot today. That's good.
And then, of course, there's the other half of the song with the vocals and the guitars and the drums. And it's first off,
The song.
it's a great jam. Oh my gosh! And the vocals on it are awesome from David Gilmour barking out the lyrics, and then you get Rick, and he's being Rick.
Yeah.
Becca, would you please?
Word.
No words.
Incredible vocal, especially for that section of the song too, because you've got David Gilmour, delivering the vocals just like, time is passing by and stuff, and then it goes to that slower part, and it's just, they did a very good job picking who would sing that song, because David and Rick's voice suit their parts so well.
And we've made
that slower, more melancholy, 10 years have gone behind you, no one told you when to run. The quality of Rick's voice is so good for those lines. I can't.
Yeah, and we've made that point before about how David and Rick, especially, they could harmonize with themselves really well, but to hear them in two different separate sections is really amazing.
Yeah, actually, the first few times I listened to it, I didn't realize that there were two people singing this song.
Me either. I just thought, wow, this guy can really alter his voice pretty well.
I kind of heard it. I don't mean to be rude, but I could kind of tell it was.
Yeah, I read an interview somewhere. I don't even remember who said it. Said time works really well because Rick and David have such similar voices.
They do. I mean, if you're not careful, you could like you said, you thought they were sung by the same person.
You're not me.
But I just think their vocals work so well, and especially like we know that Rick sings a lot of the pretty stuff, so it makes sense that he would sing the slowed down section of the song, and we know Gilmour has a very vocal ranges out of this world. And for him to sing that section and then to come in and harmonize with Rick, it's just unbelievable. That's why I will always put Time as in my top maybe 15 Pink Floyd songs ever, not just on this album. I mean, I love the vocals. We didn't even talk about the guitar solo at the in the middle of it.
We haven't even touched on the lyrics.
Right. Well, then let's get to that.
Song are absolutely incredible, and of course, with the passage of time, you get the feeling for them more and more, and go, my God, everything this man wrote was true.
Right. So many great lines in this song that you could, but you could cherry pick this and just take out one line, and I think it's universal. Like me, I go for the line, and then one day you find 10 years have gone behind, no one told you when to run, you missed the starting gun.
The starting gun line.
Yeah, that alone just makes.
You can't just sit around. It's as Roger had explained it in an interview, I believe, in the Dark Side DVD. Life it's not about waiting for life to start. Life starts. You just have to take it and run with it.
And he was what, 23 when the album? What age was he?
I think he was about mid
1973. It was 30.
Okay, well think about that. Thinking about that line, waiting for your life to start, and here he is at 30 years old.
Almost 30.
Almost 30. Well, yeah, almost 30. You're right.
Yes, true.
Right. It just. That's just amazing. I mean, I know that we sometimes bash on Waters about how it can be a bit whiny or how this stuff is, we go enough already. But I just think that makes me feel, I really relate to that, how even, we're 17, 18, 19, 20 years old and we're waiting for our life to start. And he's 30 when this song comes out. It's like, I feel for the guy.
To have those feelings when you're 30, yeah.
Much as crap as I go for it.
No, you go ahead. You were more on
As much crap as I talk, Waters is a genius.
Yeah.
That's all. That was just there you go.
But I really like how Time is, again, going with the insanity concept. Time is that point where people realize in their lives that they're wasting their own time, and there's not nearly enough to do everything we want to do. And as unfortunate as it is, it's true for everybody.
Oh, yes. I think that adds to not to interrupt you, but I think that adds to the universality of this album.
Yeah, and that thought that you won't be able to do everything you want to do might be one of those things that at least contributes to a person's eventual insanity, according to this album.
Right, and I think that's something that he really hit upon, because you could listen to this song or this whole album at any age, and you're going to take away something new from it every time, and it's going to constantly remind you, like you said, you know, you're not going to have time for all this stuff, and if you're not careful, you're going to go crazy. I just think that adds so much to the universality of this particular album, especially this song. I think this is one of the first, like this and Breathe alone, if you don't count On the Run, are just, you know, two back-to-back just killer tracks. And also, just kind of on a fun note, no pun intended, but Time Magazine, I know, I'm bad. Time Magazine.
That was the sound in my head hitting the desk.
Oh, thank you. Time Magazine, they said that Hanging On in Quiet Desperation is the English Way might just be Pink Floyd's best lyric ever.
Yeah.
Just that one line alone. And I will admit, you know me, that's not my favorite line of the whole song, but I get a laugh at that they would write something and say it's the English Way and they're an English band and that's their best line ever.
I would think that's probably one of their best lines.
Right.
It's the most quintessentially Pink Floyd line.
I'm not saying it's bad. I just find that really funny because, like I said, all that stuff. And then, like we were saying, I think it's a really wonderful thing that the song comes out of that. You know, beware of hysteria and beware of time and beware of, you know, how to live your life. That we come to a reprise of Breathe that comes back to just, you know, breathe in and it's just good to feel safe at home, just like the lyrics say.
Yeah.
Home again.
Yeah.
It's a good little reprieve from all the crap that's just being dumped on you.
Right, and it's only the third song.
Yeah.
And that they bring it in back, that they bring it back to put that in there. But also, you know, they both really do work well together.
And by the way, we mentioned this before. How about that guitar solo?
It's a tour de force. There are some parts, especially if I'm listening and I'm not in a good mood, that I'll think the song runs too long. But when it gets to the end, I'll be like, worth it.
And that guitar solo, it's definitely. I feel like this is one of the places that Gilmour actually really finds his style. This is where he's actually starting to develop it, and it's coming through, and he's actually starting to be recognized as a well, maybe not a virtuoso, but one of the premier guitarists at the time.
Well, let me ask you a question. Because we know that part of what led this album to be so maddening was, you know, the Pink Floyd, they hadn't had a lot of success. And, you know, we've often made this point that if you don't have a lot of success, you know, eventually your label might drop you. And so I can understand if Waters was maybe a bit pressured to write this. Do you think that's maybe why Gilmour was experimenting with different, like, guitar sounds? To think that if they're going to make a big record, they're going to go for a different sound? Just a thought.
Well, no, because they said they weren't thinking it was going to be a big record. It was just their next record at the time.
I guess it's just pure coincidence, or maybe my mind is just messed up in that sense. So can we move on then?
Totally.
Next we have what I consider to be the most gorgeous song on this album, and it's so weird because I love every song on this, but this one, to me, it just from the minute it opens up is just beautiful, and I should say what it is. It's a Great Gig in the Sky.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, Garrett, what do you think of it? Initial thoughts?
It was definitely, when I was first listening to it, it was the odd one out. Because, I mean, if you listen to it, it really doesn't sound like anything else on the album. Because it's got this one girl singing a song that doesn't have any lyrics, okay?
Loudly and screamily and...
Yeah. And now that I've, you know, recognized what it is it makes a lot more sense to me, and it's grown on me, definitely.
Well, yeah, I mean, to Becca's point, Great Gig when you hear it as a little kid doesn't exactly, grab you.
Yeah,
It
like
actually
you said, it was scaring you.
it actually pushes you away.
And it's like, ew, what's this? Where are the
Yeah.
guitars?
Yeah, and what's first off though, before we even get to the vocalist, the piano at the beginning,
Oh,
just
beautiful.
that piano.
I really wish that I could find more interviews, or I wish I was there to know how the heck did Rick come up with that. It's just, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's really weird how something so simple, so sparse.
It can be so beautiful.
Oh,
and
yeah.
capture just so much emotion. This song makes me like the beginning makes me cry.
Oh yeah.
Just a beautiful piano all by itself, just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
But the irony that you were saying, Garrett, about how so simple it is, if you're like me and you've actually looked at the sheet music, again, you just wonder how the heck did he come up with this stuff?
Yeah.
It's
a
just,
lot of it is jazz.
it's very,
Right.
it's
Jazz.
very
Rick
jazz.
Wright was trained in jazz.
Adored jazz.
Right. And we talked about how, he uses that not just on Breathe and like a lot of the sequencer and things on here, but I mean, you guys, I mean, I'm not going to, play favorites or anything, but I think it's safe to say that Great Gig could possibly be his masterpiece. I know it's kind of a hard thing to say, but I really think this is universal. This is what he's most known for. And it's, like you said, it's a beautiful piece.
I would agree with that, but I think you might have to tie it for Us and Them. But we'll get
Yes.
to that.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that one. But
Will we get to it?
yes.
I really like
I
Great Gig.
make myself good at words for us and them.
I really like Great Gig in that the first time I listened to it, as you guys probably had the same experience, and you hear this woman singing, it was like, oh, okay, and you try to visualize who this person is, right? And you probably go for a large black woman, because that's kind of what it sounds like, honestly. Because she's got power behind her voice. And
It
she's Kinda
does.
she's kind of got that pronunciation going on that you would associate. And then you see a picture of her, Clara Torrey, skinny white girl, blonde. It just blew my head off. I'm like,
That came out of that. Hello?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's incredible how we find these things out.
And to think that was done in, I think, 2 takes.
I think they do explain that on the Dark Side of the Moon DVD that we keep referencing, that she went in there and did it in like 2 takes, and then she came out and said, "I'm sorry."
Sorry.
I'm sorry, that was awful. That was horrible. And they were like, "What do you sound like on a good day?"
It's just it's a real tour de force, and I mean, one thing that I regret is not seeing Pink Floyd live, because I really think that when they get to that song, if they get to that song, that would just be such an amazing. Everybody would probably leap forward in their seats to think, how is the female vocalist going to do it tonight?
I don't know about that, because whenever they performed it live, they had at least 3 vocalists doing it, splitting up the parts. I think it works so much better with just one person.
Right, and it's mostly improv. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that they maybe have practiced, but it's a cool thing that I wish that I would be able to experience.
Yeah.
Being at that kind of show.
I thought I have so many little fun facts for this song. One of them is that when they approached her and said, "Hey, we want you to sing this," and she came into the studio, they said, "Okay, we have the backing track ready for you, and you're just going to sing along to that when we cue you." And she said, "Well, how do you want me to go about singing it?" They said, sing it like it's you having an orgasm. And that's kind of what it sounds like.
I never thought, for some reason, yeah, you're right. It could sound like it, but I didn't know they said that.
Oh yeah, totally.
That's hilarious.
And so fun fact again, this is the #1 song in Australia to have sex to.
Oh.
Oh, well, makes sense.
Okay, well,
On that note.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Way to go, Australia.
But
You go.
I'm
Gold star.
I'm cracking up here.
I think maybe this is time for.
Sources say the Dark Side of the Moon as an album is good for that, but
Yeah. Very dark and appropriate.
Hang on a second. The album about insanity is the song that you want to. You know what? I can't take it. We need to take a break, Tom.
Okay, well, we will be right back with side 2 of this album. So we are going to take a break, and we'll see you on the other side.
oh man.
Damn Australians. Hi guys, this is Tom from Triple Threat. Thanks for listening to part 1 of our conversation about The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. And on our next episode, we'll present part 2 and pick up where we left off. But before that, Triple Threat would like to make an important announcement. As we said in the first episode of this show, we are all students, and at the time of this recording, it is currently April, and the school year is coming to an end, and we need to focus on finishing strong. So that's why we've been on a short hiatus for a while, and unfortunately, we still will be for a bit longer. We do have a few more episodes in the can, and we will release them. But it may be some time before we can all get back together and record new episodes again. And at this point, we really don't know when that will be. So we hope that you'll be patient with us as we take a break from recording, but still bring you new and unreleased episodes of Triple Threat. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Oh, and we hope you enjoyed our recent April Fool's episode. Well, sort of enjoyed it. Goodbye.
You ready to go?
Yeah, just hold up to your mouth, because... Sorry, there you go.
All right, okay. Hi, this is Wayne Bergeron, and you're listening to Triple Threat.
That's perfect.
Because that album was done in 1970, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
We realized literally no one is going to care about this. We're just like,
Yeah, we just lost all 4 of our listeners.
Oh.
So anyway, I'm going to just blatantly say it right now. I don't know how the hell I'm going to approach this album.
Track by track, that's what we always do, Thomas.
Well, yes, but this is something that is so, like you said, it works as one. I mean, it's the best way I can think of it is that it's like a movie, kind of going scene by scene by scene, like cutting it up. And yes, we can do that, but something inside of me just feels like, this is something that we're going to have to do. It's like having a big cake. You can't have the cake and eat it too. This is something that, I'm using totally, stupid illusions right now. But
pull up your big boy britches and let's get on with it.
Okay.
just wolf down the entire cake and ask questions later. You might throw up, but it'll be worth it, because damn, it'll be incredible.
Yes, it will. So
I don't know how this fits metaphorically, but
went from my brain,
thanks, going to Australia.
jump from my brain to your mouth that we should take a break.
This is where we stop. On that note,
The funny thing is, I think we said that about Sergeant Pepper and Tommy about those naughty bits, and we just kept going.
Oh yeah, totally.
But it's like, oh no, you cannot touch this.
we actually went. We found the line. The line was clearly defined, and we just stared it down, lifted one foot, raised both middle fingers, and jumped. We leapt over the line.
Indeed.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we went there.
We did, pretty much.
Oh man.
I feel bad for my parents back home when they're going to listen to this.
Oh, come on.
They know that I'm 19 and I'm mature.
It's all in good fun.
Yes, it is. Wow, I didn't know that. So now I'm just kind of like, I'm going to shake it off for a few minutes.
Let's just sit here and come to terms with this.
Can we not, please?
No. We have to confront it to properly cope with it. We can't push this to the back of our minds. It'll.
Okay. You first.
So Australia?
Yeah.
So the number one song.
Yeah.
have sex to. In Australia.
Yep.
Wait,
This is the Great Gig of the Sky by Pink Floyd.
Yep.
do you mean number one period or number one of Pink Floyd songs?
No, of all songs.
God damn it.
They just surveyed people and go, hey, yo, when you getting it on, what you listening to?
Oh, Marvin Gaye must be turning in his grave.
He was probably number 2.
At least.
At least. Oh my God.
Even Barry White.
Yeah, I feel so. And he's turning in his grave too.
Of all the Great Gig in the Sky.
I wonder how Rick feels about that.
Speaking of people turning over in their graves.
Yeah, he's probably.
Oh no, we're upsetting her.
Yeah, here we are on his. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yo, remember that time that there's this masterpiece? Yeah, people own to it. Yeah, that's the impact you've left on this earth. Have a nice afterlife. Goodbye.
I wonder how they feel about that to like people who like appreciate, like say, you know, people really appreciate your album, but only when they're high or something like that.
Only
People really appreciate your album when they're
bumping uglies.
bumping uglies. That's my favorite terminology ever. Bumping uglies is my favorite thing.
God damn it.
Oh, I bet it is, Becca.
Oh yes, wink.
It goes back to that joke. What did the Pink Floyd fan say when he ran out of pot? This music sucks. Oh, I've said that. I've told you that one before.
Okay, I'm pretty sure the previous discussion hurt my feelings a lot more than that.
It did.
Also, I've heard that joke made with Fish and not Pink Floyd, and that makes a little bit more sense.
I heard it first with Grateful Dead, I think. Actually, there's another Pink Floyd joke I heard. I might as well tell you guys. You may have heard it before, but
Wait, Tom, are you recording?
do you want me to?
Should have been.
Okay, well, I am.
What about me literally sobbing about how people just?
I'll take that out if you want me to.
You know, that was recorded?
Yeah.
I mean, do what you will with it.
Do what I will with it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the joke is in.
Joke.
Yeah, the joke. It may not start out as a joke, but trust me, it's getting somewhere. So David and Nick are on a drive together, and their car crashes, and they ascend into heaven. And at the gates, St. Peter's meeting them, and they say, "Oh, hi guys, we've been."
Oh, I know this one.
He said, "Wait, do you want to tell it?"
No. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, so they meet St. Peter at the gate, and St. Peter says, "Oh, hi guys, you're gonna love it here, and we even have our own band. We have your old bandmate Rick Wright playing keyboards. We have Elvis Presley singing. We have Keith Moon drumming. We have Jimi Hendrix on guitar, and your old pal Roger Waters is writing lyrics for us." And David Gilmour says, "Wait, Roger's here? When did he die?" And then St. Peter leans into David and whispers, "It's really God. He just thinks he's Roger Waters."
I love Pink Floyd humor a lot. Nobody else gets me.
That's amazing.
God, he just thinks he's Roger Waters.
It reminds me of, you ever heard this? This is completely unrelated-ish, but it's just the joke was similar. You ever heard the joke about when Brett Farve died and went to heaven?
Who's Brett Farve again?
He was that kind of a big deal quarterback for the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
Yeah, and then a couple of others and stuff. I don't even know if he's still doing stuff. Anyway, so he dies and goes to heaven, and St. Peter shows him in and says, "Here's your house, and you got this mansion here along the way," and he can see, you know, mansions reserved for other big football stars. Like there's the Tony Romo one with the Cowboys flag in there, and he can see the Tom Brady one with the Patriots flag. And then he comes to his mansion, and it's words, and the Green Bay Packers flag is stamped right there in the front yard, and it's a nice big old mansion, and he's happy with it, and he goes, "All right, cool." Then he looks down the way and he sees this gigantic, humongous, biggest mansion you could have possibly imagined. This huge mansion that has a flag, a Cowboys flag, and on the front yard that's as big as a football field itself. And he says, Now, come on, Peter. How come Roger Staubach gets this mansion and I get this relatively small one? And he says, and then Peter looks at the house and he goes, "Oh, no, Mr. Farve, that isn't Roger Staubach's house. That's God's house."
That's God's house. Wow, yes.